Hey there, survivors. How's it going? I'm your host, Douglas here at Drumboy Productions, bringing you another Texas Chainsaw Massacre collecting video. Lately, we have been on a roll reviewing different masks from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise. So far, we've taken a look at the Pretty Woman mask and the original Killing mask from the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I have taken a look at the Texas Chainsaw 2 and 3 Leatherface masks in the past. I haven't taken a look at the updated ones, but the older ones were still very nice masks. But today's mask is one that I have actually never owned before. Here we have the 2003 Remake Texas Chainsaw Massacre Leatherface. This is my first time owning one of these, and it's kind of a shame I didn't get one of the original versions, because out of all of the different Leatherface masks that have had huge changes in their new updated versions, this one has definitely changed the most. The original one was closer to like a normal Caucasian flesh tone color. This one is like a really gross dead flesh and like blackened flesh color. The new updated version looks a lot closer to how it appears on film. The paint job was not the only thing that got an upgrade though. The initial one had some like very small tufts of hair. However, this one, as you can tell, has a pretty full head of hair. And I'm sure for you scrutinizing Texas Chainsaw Massacre fans, you're going, that's entirely too much hair, and it absolutely is. This Leatherface doesn't have quite this much hair, though I think it does look pretty good with this like almost 74 bushy curly hair look. The actual mask that was used on screen had much shorter hair, but in my opinion it's much better to have longer hair because you can trim it down to size. If it's too short, you have to take it off and add new hair on entirely. If it's too long, just trim it to length. I don't know how well it's going to show up on camera. I imagine it'll show it pretty well. But you do also have two tones of hair. This side is like a lighter color brown, this side is more of like a dark reddish brown, and that is something that is present on the actual screen used mask. As gross as it is, he has two different scalps making up his hair. And at least a couple of faces, because while this part looks like it's made up of mostly one person's face, you definitely have an extra set of lips on the neck. And while I'm talking about the sculpture, I guess it's very fitting to go ahead and mention this because I have not done so yet. If you were thinking to yourself, wow, that mask looks really good, sculpturally and paint-wise, it's because this actually was derived from the original screen-used molds. This Leatherface mask used in the movie was sculpted by Scott Stoddard, who also worked on the remake Jason Voorhees. I don't know how you guys feel, but personally, I think Trick or Treat Studios is spoiling us with all these movie mold and production mold horror replica masks. I almost said slasher masks, but they're doing stuff beyond that. But of course, as someone who grew up watching these films and was a pretty big fan of them, as a kid especially, I do prefer the original, don't get me twisted. But I do think out of all the horror remakes that were coming out around that time, this was definitely one of the better ones, with one of the better looking slashers as well. I'm not going to get into all the drama between the original Leatherface and this Leatherface, but I will say that I personally do think that as a scary mask, this is a much scarier face. Also, talking about this replica versus the originals, the sculpting on the stitching is much better. These actually do look pronounced enough, and with how they're painted, they do look like pretty much just as good as actual leather stitching. So really, that's not even a downgrade, it looks just as good. As for the paint job, the color on this, the shading and everything, looks pretty darn close to what you see on screen. I mean, I'm sure you could maybe do a couple of other washes or something to add some more depth to it, but overall, this thing looks pretty perfect as is. The only thing I would really recommend doing on this to make it look a little bit better and a bit more screen accurate is you could trim up the hair. But really, even with this crazy like 74 style hair, I think it looks pretty darn nice. Alright everyone, here's the part of the video where I read the excerpt from the Trick or Treat Studios website, so let's see what they have to say. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2003 Leatherface mask for $59.99. Pretty much your standard full deluxe mask pricing, you know, pretty good. And these are actually currently sold out because this new run has been very popular. This amazing mask comes directly out of Scott Stoddard's screen-used mold, making this mask an amazing replica of the one featured in the 2003 film. This is a full overhead latex mask with all the scars and stitches that made the '03 mask so original, yet true to the '74 Leatherface. Don't miss your chance to have a piece of Texas Chainsaw Massacre history right out of the screen used mold. And I could not agree more. For $59.99, of course, for anything screen used mold, it doesn't matter if it was just a blank. It's not going to get better than that, it's not going to get cheaper than that. But the fact that you can get it fully painted and it comes with hair, and in my opinion, with this one in particular, it looks so close to the original just as is stock. Like, this is great. For those people who aren't absolutely insane, who are nitpicking over all the different layers and colors and stuff like that, like me, I'm definitely one of those nutcases. If you're not like that, if you're just like the normal standard fan who looks at something and you're like, you know what, that accomplishes the look pretty much perfectly, this is the mask for you because this thing looks great. And if you're a nutcase like me, you can take some scissors to the hair and do a little bit more paint work on it, but this one, I don't even know if I'm going to touch up the paint. Maybe just trim up those nice curly locks a little bit. And with that being said, that pretty much covers it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I love you all. Thank you for watching. Of course, don't forget we have tons more Trick or Treat Studios content coming this month, as well as amazing other horror content. Some really cool stuff, so keep an eye out. I love you all. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.